Hello everyone, and welcome to this presentation on bilingual education focusing on language maintenance model. In our introduction, we will have a look at the definition of bilingual education, and then we will have a look at philosophies, models, and programs in that area. Then we will have a look at the previous research that has been investigated, and we will explore the themes and issues in them. Finally, we will explore the maintenance model over time. We will have a look at the past, recent, and the present. So, as Colin and Wright put into words, the bilingual education is one that uses and promotes two languages. In other words, it is a classroom where formal instruction fosters bilingualism. However, we have to remember that this is quite different from a classroom where bilingual children are present, but bilingualism is not promoted in the curriculum. Moving on to the philosophies, models, and programs, I would like to present this diagram from May that puts three different levels in the shape of a pyramid. Starting from the top with the philosophies, we have two main philosophies, subtractive and additive. The subtractive framework is one that supports language shift to the more powerful language of instruction. This framework results in children developing a feeling that their home language is useless at school and that only the school language is valued and assessed, according to Garcia. However, Garcia also asserts that the additive framework advances the bilingualism of children by insisting that the two languages can be used simultaneously. Now, moving on to the models, as you can see on the screen, starting from the left side, we have the transitional model. In transitional model, the student's L1 is used to lead them towards the use of L2 and gradually shifting the students away from their L1. Then we have heritage and indigenous models. So heritage model follows reclamation of a heritage language that is no longer being used or spoken as an L1. However, indigenous model follows revitalization of indigenous languages. The next model that we have is enrichment model. In this model, according to Commons, enrichment bilingual education is referred to programs that aim to enrich students' educational experience by strongly promoting bilingualism and biliteracy. However, May points out that in this model, we teach the majority language students, for example, English-speaking students as their L1, we teach them through a minority target language. Finally, we have maintenance model. This model aims to maintain the minority language of the student, also strengthen the students' sense of cultural and linguistic identity, and affirm their individual and collective ethno-linguistic rights. Now, moving on to programs, very briefly I would like to add and to mention the three major programs, types of programs that we have: non-bilingual, weak bilingual, and strong bilingual. So in non-bilingual programs, a second language is not used in the classroom as a mean of instruction. However, in weak bilingual, for example, in transitional, students' L1 is used in a very limited way, only in the first years of the schooling. And then in strong bilingual programs, there is a use of both languages. Now, the main themes and issues investigated in different papers are more or less about responsibility and policy, attitudes, and beliefs. For example, Canton did a research on the German policy around the language maintenance. Cunningham, in 2020, used the discourse between the teachers, British primary school teachers, and investigated where the responsibility lies. Oriyama did a research on the maintenance of Japanese as an heritage language in Sydney in 2016. And he also looked into where the responsibility lies in, or where the policy should actually aim at. Weekly in 2020 interviewed multilingual British South Asian English teachers to find out who are more responsible in terms of language maintenance. Now in next part, Jan would elaborate more on the evolution of the topic over the years.
Thank you, Bazad. So I'm going to show you some examples of maintenance language education. So in the past, speaking the ethnic home language was basically not allowed, and even caused for physical punishment or other negative sanctions. Rodrigues in 1982 mentioned that some private schools encouraged monolingualism in the societally dominant language, and this causes an identity crisis for bilingual children. But actually, ethnic language instruction is sometimes provided by schools, both public and private schools. Children that can learn to write and speak in their home ethnic language. At the same time, they attend curriculum learning with, like this example, same age peers that can transfer such skills in other language. However, schooling cannot provide enough time to develop or maintain productive skills in home language. While the curriculum can provide valuable home language input, schooling alone cannot solve problems of home language maintenance, which is about, in my opinion, how well students perceive the importance of home language and how much time they spend on the effective learning of home languages. According to Fishman, it is important that families and communities are also involved in efforts to maintain the ethnic language. So back in time, intervention efforts in public and private schools are seen as strengthening and complementing the input of the language of families and communities. So here are a few examples. There is a program in Hawaii called something, I don't know how to pronounce it correctly, sorry. And it is a total immersion program mostly offered at universities and community colleges. And also Fillmore in 2000 presented a case study that Chinese American family in discussing the trade-offs between English language learning and ethnic language loss. The conclusion apparently is that educators and parents need to take care to maintain children's native language while learning English. Also, Francis studied the impact of Spanish language literacy materials on the learning of the indigenous Nahuatl in central Mexico. After observing the value of this indigenous language for reading and writing was apparently questioned. So, as we know, language attitudes affect language maintenance. For example, in 2000, those people compared the educational practices and policies with levels of language maintenance in Australia and the Philippines. Based on interviews, they found while people have positive attitudes towards ethnic languages, they are generally less positive towards literacy and still prefer English. Also, the research of Snedden explores children's language experience at home, in the community, and at school, and links these to their educational achievement. This study showed that children, through ethnic culture and leisure activities, actually help them tell better stories in their home language and English. And these research surveys show the impact of schooling practices on language maintenance in the past few years, and while not exhaustive, it shows that much is being done in the field, with mixed results. Anyway, these studies and surveys clearly show that language maintenance has been slowly valued since the past, and many countries and ethnic groups are actually maintaining it. So most conclusions tend to immersion education, that is, the combination of school education, family education, and social education allows children to input and output effectively. But, however, it is often still the case that children receive an unmistakable message that English only is acceptable, like dominant language or official language. It has been observed in research across the globe that children move up through school. They tend to develop resistance to using the home language and choose to use the dominant language. That means the choice has to be made between being successful in school and using the dominant language and maintaining the home language. However, if multilingual ideologies develop through school or national policy or individual teacher innovation, all languages will be seen as a resource. And spaces for all languages like this clearly have the positive impact. And in 2020, there was a survey on CLA, which is critical language awareness, which sampled 27 students at American University in order to understand students' perceptions of CLA interventions in classroom instruction. So they took a Spanish heritage course, and most of the student participants were of Mexican ancestry. These students have home language production and reception skills and can speak Spanish fluently with family or the community, but need support in developing their literacy skills. The results showed some students recognize linguistic diversity within one language and the different treatment of language variation, and evidenced by keywords such as equal, unique, and negative superiority, such as I was thinking Spanish in Spain is the best Spanish, something like this. But more students said they would like to learn more about specific dialects and cultures. So from this, obviously, ethnic culture is a good way for students to increase their interest in home language learning. Some examples of family education also mention that except to emphasizing the importance of family language, parents are keen to tell their children local tales, legends, or something like historical stories to cultivate children's cultural confidence and interest in local language learning. In this regard, also cultural publicity is an important task for society and policies, which means maintaining traditional culture also needs to be taken seriously. So I think that's all I want to say for now. Thank you, and those are our references. So, questions time.